8 years ago, Jagex released Zulrah and changed the game forever. This update set a precedent for the future of boss loot tables and completely transformed the Iron Man skilling meta. Since then, Zulrah's loot table has undergone numerous changes, and has been succeeded by other bosses such as Vorkath, the Alchemical Hydra, and the latest addition, the Phantom Muspah. But with the release of Phantom Muspah, the age-old debate has once again come to the forefront. Should boss loot undermine the traditional skilling methods? I am SawKID, and some may know me as the rank 2 hardcore Iron Man, and I too have taken advantage of these bosses and collected billions of GP worth of resources. Join us as we determine whether the Phantom Muspah is the 2023 version of the Megalodon that some of you may refer to as the Money Snake. Before we get into the video, I just wanted to remind everyone that if we manage to reach 10,000 subscribers by the end of this year, I'll go to the Theater of Blood and set my sights on obtaining the Verzik pet. So make sure to subscribe if you enjoy that, and leave a like if you enjoy the video. This is my hardcore Iron Man, and I've been killing the Phantom Muspah recently to try and get the Venenator bow as well as the saturated heart. I now have enough essence, well, I have way more essence than I need, but I have enough essence to get the saturated heart upgrade, and what remains is the Venenator bow. I'm at 2 out of 5 shards at the moment, just closing in on 700 KC, 1 in 100 drop, and we still have yet to complete the bow. So the main reasons I want the bow is to use it at the Abyssal Demons. I can do that task AFK if I have the bow, and I can get decent Slayer experience an hour while also getting prayer experience because I don't have to be on the Ancient Spellbook. I can be on the Arceus Spellbook and scatter all the ashes. So that's the main reason that we'll be going for the Venenator bow and killing Muspah in the first place. And now, through killing Muspah, I've been curious about exactly what kind of XP you're expected to get or bank per kill. I've seen a lot of talks about its drop table being maybe too good, and I was curious how it compares to other drop tables. So for this video, I've compared the Phantom Muspah to Vorkath, Alchemical Hydra, as well as Zulrah. They're all solo instance bosses. Zulrah and Muspah are very similar because they both have 100% drop that's used to charge another drop on its table. So Zulrah has Zulrah Scales, Phantom Muspah has the Ancient Essence. And now we'll be comparing these drop tables to one another, and I've also done up some graphics to help showcase exactly what I have found. And I've also, just for fun, I've compared it to old Zulrah before all the nerfs. And I've compared it to, I've compared the Phantom Muspah between its on-release version and its current version. So before they had changed the drop rates, they nerfed some of the Toadflax, and they changed the Snapdragon around. They also changed how supply drops work at Phantom Muspah because at first it was giving too many supplies and extending trips too long. So that was changed. And yeah, let's have a look at exactly how these drop tables all compare, and we'll do a breakdown of each skill one by one, as well as look at raw GP an hour and effective GP an hour. For these calculations, what I've just done is just done only alks, as well as stuff you smith or craft and then alk. So an example would be you get dehides, you're going to craft them and then alk them. You get battle staves, you'll craft them, then alk them. Smithing, you're going to turn the runite bar into something and then alk it. So I've also included that into the raw GP calcs. For effective GP, I've also included the money that you save from not having to buy the runes anymore, because, you know, during Slayer you have to go buy death runes or so on, death runes or blood runes. But some bosses, they drop runes, and that means you don't have to go out of your way and buy the runes. I mean, that's recently become less of a thing just because there's so many ways of getting runes now. ZMI is huge with Dayalt Essence. There's also Guardians of the Rift that gives tons of runes in the new rune crafting outfit. So the effective GP stat is not as important, but I just included it just so you can kind of see which boss drops like a lot of runes, and that can contribute to some money save in the long term. And yeah, so that's all I really want to talk about before we get into it, and let's jump right into the breakdown. Now to start off, we'll be looking at GP per kill, and this is going to include alking supplies such as like smithing and crafting stuff. So any battle staves you make, any rune armor or adamant armor that you can make with bars that you get from the drop or from ores has also been included. First, we'll look at the Phantom Muspah, which is just around 50k, and that's through alking Dragon Plate Legs, Dragon Plate Skirts, Rune Kite Shields, and Rune Plate Legs, as well as there's also some GP to be gained from Black D'hide and some Runite Ore and Rune Swords. So that's where some of the GP comes from. Majority just coming from, the Dragon equipment that you get, that you can alch, and the Rune equipment, and the Rune Ore. As well, Vorkath has gems that you can also, craft into bracelets or amulets and alch as well. And then we have Alchemical Hydra, which is around the same. And then Zulrah, which is much, much lower. And that's because Zulrah really only has 2 alchs on its table, that being the Dragon Halberd and the Dragon Med Helm. There's also Runite Ore, but it's such a small amount. You get, like 2 noted Runite Ore a kill or something? I mean, at one point, when you would kill Zulrah, you would get 10 noted Runite Ore. Now you only get 2, so it's definitely gotten reduced quite a bit. Now, Zulrah on release was very different, and there was a lot more GP per kill back then. One reason because there was much less uniques on the table. The amount of drops were so minimal. There was like 4 different seeds, one of them being crystal seeds, whereas Zulrah now there's like 10 different seeds. So the table has definitely spread out a lot more, which means you're going to be landing on those drops much less. And because the drops were just so much better, there's less things to roll, you're getting so much more supplies from it. So next up, we'll look at GP per kill effective. And this one, like I had said, is going to be including runes as well. So if you were to sell blood runes or sell soul runes, or not having to buy death runes or chaos runes, the extra money you get is going to be saved not having to buy the runes later down the line. Through that, we've added more to the GP per kill, and that's actually pushed Phantom Muspah over Vorkath, which is a little surprising, but you can see Phantom Muspah has a lot more runes on its table, a lot more like good runes. It's got soul runes and death runes and law runes, and those you can sell for quite a bit, and you don't have to buy as many death runes. Whereas Vorkath only has chaos runes and death runes. So that's why Muspah kind of outshines Vorkath when you look at it effectively. And next up we have Herblore experience per kill. This stat I'm very interested in because I have plans one day to get 200 mil all, not anytime soon, but in the inevitable future, years down the line, I'd like to one day reach 200 mil all. Just playing casually over the years, if I play long enough, I'll eventually get it, right? So I'm interested in which bosses I can kill to, work towards that goal. The Phantom Muspah is decent. You get around 800 herb XP per kill. Now, the Phantom Muspah has a ton of Renar seeds on its drop table, as well as it has a pretty stacked Toadflax drop, and those add up to contribute quite a bit to the Herblore experience per kill. There's also a few random herbs that it drops in very small amounts, like 6 or 7 herbs at a time, whereas Vorkath isn't really known for herb XP at all. In fact, the only XP that you get is from the Snapdragons, Torsos, and Renar seeds, and those seeds are like 1 in 100 or 1 in 200. I think one of them is 1 in 400. That's why Vorkath's XP is very low, whereas at Hydra, there's also a ton of herbs on Hydra's drop table. There's like Lantidimes, Dwarfweed, and such. So Hydra is very decent as well. Zulrah used to be really good, but now it's sitting at around 450 experience a kill. Phantom Muspah almost double it at 800 experience. While we're looking at the experience you're getting per kill, it's also important that I note that the amount of XP you get per kill is interesting, but you also need to incorporate how many times you can kill the boss per hour. Because although you're getting more experience per kill, if you're going to take twice as long to kill that boss, then in the long run it ends up being worse per hour. I'll be covering that a little later in the video. We'll be looking at each stat in a per hour metric instead of a per kill metric. That'll hopefully give a more accurate representation on how good each boss is. But for now, we'll just look at XP per kill. Next up, we have crafting experience. Now, crafting from the Phantom Muspah mainly comes from the Molten Glass as well as the Water Orbs. I've included half the experience of making the Water Battle Staff because you also need Battle Staffs to do that, so I've halved the experience from that to make it more fair. But yeah, Molten Glass and Water Orbs make 660 experience a kill for Muspah, whereas Vorkath outshines it. Obviously, due to the hides on its drop table, Black D'hide, Red D'hide, Blue D'hide, and Green D'hide all add up to quite a bit of crafting experience. It also has gems too, putting it at 930 experience a kill. I won't really talk about Hydra or Zulrah here because it's just the battle stabs, that's about it. Now, the next skill I have is smithing. The smithing experience per kill for Phantom Muspah is 1180, and the second best was Vorkath at 190. So over almost 1,000 more experience per kill. And I guess this makes sense because Phantom Muspah has gold ore as well as runite ore, and a decent amount of adamant ore and coal. So all these ores add up to quite a bit per kill, whereas Vorkath just has, to my knowledge, adamant ore and the rare drop table rune bar, which you barely ever hit. So 10 to 30 adamant ore and 1 rune bar every so often. So it only equates to around 190 XP, whereas Zulrah has adamant bars, and that's about it. So if you're looking for smithing experience and you don't want to go buy gold ore, you could go kill the Phantom Muspah. Obviously though, this stat isn't really that game breaking because it's better just to kill the boss that gives more GP per hour and then use that GP to buy more ore from the blast furnace, because gold ore is just by far the best. But it is interesting if you don't want to do any of that and you want to get all the supplies yourself, not just get GP and buy ores, you want to avoid shopscape, you could kill Phantom Muspah. Next up we have Prayer. I will note that Phantom Muspah does not give prayer experience unless you use an ectoplasmator, that upon killing spectral creatures, you gain 20% of the monster's max HP in prayer experience. So every time you kill Phantom Muspah, you also gain like 170 prayer experience. So I use the ectoplasmator there just because it's like 4k prayer an hour, and I'm trying to get 200 more prayers eventually, so every little bit counts. Compared to Vorkath and Hydra, it's not even comparable. Vorkath and Hydra both have 2 guaranteed drops for bones. They give the Superior Dragon Bones and the Hydra Bones respectively, and these bones give a ton of experience. If you want to get prayer, definitely go to Vorkath or Hydra. For these calculations, I've used the Wilderness Chaos Altar. So for hardcore, these numbers are going to be a lot different. You're going to have to probably half that. And now for the last individual skill, we'll be looking at cooking. You can see Phantom Muspah as well as Hydra both give 0 cooking experience, so not much to note there, but Vorkath gives 3,670, whereas Zulrah gives 2,340. Both of these bosses give grapes, and Vorkath just gives grapes more often, as well as slightly more per drop. Now, if we were to look back to Zulrah in 2015 on release, it was giving 100 sharks as well as 250 grapes per kill, and after it got nerfed, it kept that drop table with sharks and grapes for another 2.5 years, and it wasn't until 2017 when they removed the sharks from the drop table and just kept the grapes. If you were to include the sharks as well, it'd be much more than what Vorkath is today. And while we're on the topic of the old Zulrah, there's a few things I wanted to talk about, and it's that Zulrah used to have a common drop for 50 teleports from 1 kill. Today it's like 4, but yeah, at one point it was 50 teleports, so you would get like thousands of teleports, and you would profit teleports. You could just always teleport to Zulrah every kill. And it also had crystal keys, so if you killed 3,000 Zulrah, you get 400 crystal keys. In addition, there was like a ratio of 3 kills per brew. So for example, if you killed 3,000 Zulrah, you could expect to get 1,000 brews. And then there's also mahogany planks and magic logs, and then a bunch of other drops just to make it even better. But yeah, so if you want to get cooking experience today, you would go to Vorkath, and you probably have noticed at this point that it seems like Vorkath is one of the best to go to for many different skills. It has prayer, crafting, GP, cooking. It's just one of the best. I will note that, Vorkath also doesn't have like crazy good rare drops. Like Zulrah has the Tan's Fang, it has a Blowpipe, it has a Magic Fang, Serpalm, Hydra has the Claw. Vorkath doesn't really have that, so I can see the balancing there. But in my opinion, supply drops should be limited to 1 skill per boss. Make Vorkath known for prayer, make Hydra known for GP or herb or something, make Zulrah known for cooking, Phantom Muspah for smithing. Basically, I think each boss should specialize in 1 skill, and if you start getting into multiple skills that are like one of the best, it starts getting a little too overpowered, and that's how I would prefer it to be, just 1 skill per boss. And it also makes it so you're more inclined to go kill other bosses rather than just camping 30,000 Vorkath. You can go kill like 5,000 of this, 5,000 of that to get the typical supplies that you need for each skill. And now to get back on topic, let's get into the part that I'm most excited to share, and that's taking the XP per kill and then transitioning that based on the EHB rates to come up with a total amount of XP per hour in each skill, as well as GP per hour. First up is the GP per hour from each of these 4 bosses, and we'll start by assuming you're killing it at the EHB rate, basically the maximum amount of kills per hour with the current best gear in the game. If you're killing 25 Phantom Muspah per hour, you can expect 1.2 million GP, whereas Vorkath reigns supreme at 1.8 million, Hydra is around the same amount, and Zulrah ends up being much, much less. Now, the thing I want to really focus on is why I mentioned it earlier, is because even though you're getting more XP at Herblore than Hydra, it actually ends up that when you look at the amount you can kill per hour, because your average kill time, it's much less at Hydra than at Phantom, and smithing clocks up to over 30k at the Phantom Muspah, meaning that Phantom Muspah would be the best for herblore and smithing, whereas at Vorkath, cooking also beats Zulrah. And now even with T-Bow, I can't be getting rates like this, so let's look at what I could actually get just to give a more accurate representation, and that would make Phantom Muspah less than 1 million per hour, whereas Vorkath still is at a decent amount. The main thing I guess I would point out here is that the herblore experience an hour goes way, way down because I can't kill near as much Phantom Muspah per hour as I can Alchemical Hydra, so the herb XP per hour goes down to 14k 500 from 20k. Now the big question is, how does Phantom Muspah perform in comparison to Zulrah on release? So what we have here is Phantom Muspah on release as well as Zulrah on release, and you can see that the Phantom Muspah actually beats Zulrah in terms of GP per hour in both categories. However, Zulrah starts pulling ahead when it comes to herb. The current Zulrah herb is terrible. Zulrah on release was very good for herb, as well as cooking, 177k, which actually beats Vorkath. And the prayer experience isn't too bad either, 40k per hour an hour. I will also mention, because it's worth noting, on release, nobody was killing 39 Zulrah an hour. 7 years ago, the gear was much, much worse, so you were not getting this many kills an hour. You're probably averaging like 2 minutes or something per kill, so it was more like 30 or something at the maximum. But yeah, it's also important to mention that. This is just for comparison's sake. And now when Phantom Muspah was released, it was actually nerfed the next week, and I believe nerfed again the next week after. So it went through a variation of nerfs. So I was actually curious and wanted to compare the on-release version to the current version. And you can see here that the on-release version was actually less GP an hour than the current version. Same thing for herblore and crafting and smithing and prayer. So iteration of Muspah is actually better than it was on release, which is strange because the overall consensus was that Phantom Muspah was nerfed twice. After the week when they nerfed the drops, they also did a second change. In fact, they actually reduced how often you roll the supply drop. The drop that gives you like prayer pots and pies and sharks and stuff to help extend your trips. So now the rate of getting the supply drops went from 1 in 3.5 to 1 in 4.5. So since you're getting those supply drops less often, you're going to be getting like the actual loot drops much more often, so they won't be ragged by those supply drops anymore, which in turn means you're getting more toad flax, more water orbs, more molten glass, and all that, so the rate ends up balancing out. Now I will mention that if you were getting more supply drops like you were on release, then you're also probably going to have longer trips, which means you can kill more per hour. And the last thing we'll do is just for fun, we'll just compare all the different iterations of Zulrah. So Zulrah was released in 2015, then nerfed like 3 weeks later, and then for 2 years it had a pretty OP drop table, which was then nerfed in 2017 in May or something. And if you compare all the different versions of Zulrah, you can see that Phantom Muspah beats it on GP, beats it on herb for the most part. Like the OP Zulrah one that lasted multiple years, it beats that one in herb, as well as crafting, as well as smithing, just not in prayer or cooking. And that's the release version of Phantom Muspah. And yeah, so that's really all I wanted to cover. Do I think the Phantom Muspah is completely broken? No, I think Vorkath is more broken. And although on this table here it makes it look like Phantom Muspah is actually comparable to OP Zulrah, there's also a lot of things on this list that aren't mentioned, like I talked about before. The crystal keys, mahogany planks, full-on brew drops, and stuff like that. There's a lot of extra stuff, mahogany planks, that aren't considered on this chart, which makes Zulrah just way, way, way better. This is really all the good things from Phantom Muspah. There's not really anything else to include. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of the current boss drop tables? I'm curious if you also share the opinion that the best way of getting a skilling resource should be from the source. So if you're going to be getting coal, the best way of getting coal per hour should be from mining coal. You shouldn't be getting it passively from a boss. I do share this opinion in some areas, but for the example that I used coal, I mean, there's not really any fun in just sitting at a coal rock mining it. I'd much rather get that through some fun PVM encounter. I obviously think some skilling supplies should be from the source, like farming and such. But yeah, I mean, everyone has a different opinion on that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your opinion is on boss drop tables. Should they all be like Nightmare, or should they be more like Zulrah, Vorkath, Phantom Muspah, or Hydra? And also, if you're new here, make sure to subscribe. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see me die in my Hardcore Iron Man or risk dying on the Hardcore Iron Man doing Theater of Blood, then make sure you sub because you won't want to miss that. I'll be hitting up the Theater of Blood as soon as we hit 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to be streaming bingo all weekend, hopefully, so if you're watching this video, I'm most likely live if it's the weekend still, and I'll be streaming all of my bingo content as I try to win another bingo. Obviously, I'm a full-timer now, so I don't have as much time to put into the game, but I'm going to be trying my best to contribute as much as I can and hopefully pull out the win. So if you want to watch that, check me out on twitch.tv. Hope you guys all have a great day. Goodbye.